What if our deepest struggles aren't the end of our story, but just the beginning? Today on the first podcast of Finding Hope in a Fallen World, we'll explore Psalm 38 and see how pain can become a pathway to purpose. Let's listen to James and Debbie discuss how even in our darkest moments, hope isn't just possible. It's promised.
One thing that strikes me right away about this reflection is that it doesn't try to pretend that everything's okay.
Yeah.
It's honest. It admits that life can just feel overwhelming sometimes.
It's real, right? Just like David in that song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't hold back. He's in pain, and he tells God exactly how it is.
And the reflection doesn't shy away from that either.
Not at all.
But then it shifts, It's like, okay, the pain is real, but
To God.
yeah, but God totally changes the whole feel.
It's huge. It doesn't magically erase the problems, but it changes how we look at them.
How we face them.
Yeah. Like, picture David there, just pouring out all his anguish, and then bam. He remembers who he's actually talking to.
Mm-hmm.
The God who sees him, who hears him, and who ultimately has the power to redeem any situation, no matter how painful.
It's like that moment when you're underwater and you come up for air.
Uh-huh.
And that's what the reflection does. Reminds us that even when things are rough, we're not alone in it.
We're never alone.
And you know what? It even goes a step further and brings Jesus into it.
Right.
Because he went through all those human struggles too.
Oh, yeah. And he offers us that ultimate freedom, that ultimate hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's like connecting the dots across time, and saying, hey, look, you're not the first person to feel this way. You're part of a much, much bigger story.
Yeah. It's like this long line of faith, and we're part of it.
And that's where the real hope kicks in.
Not just hoping for the best, but knowing there's something more.
It's not wishful thinking. It's rooted in the fact that Jesus gets it. He understands our pain, not just because it's written down, but because he lived it.
Wow.
He walked through those dark valleys, and he came out on the other side. And that victory, that hope, that's for us too.
So yeah, the pain is real, but it's not the final word. It's not the end of the story.
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes the affirmations in this reflection so powerful.
Oh, they're amazing. Like little nuggets of truth to hold on to when everything feels shaky.
I know. There were a couple that I had to underline them. Like one of them is, my pain has a purpose. It makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Even in the hurt, something good can come out of it. It's not just meaningless suffering.
Totally. It's about shifting your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You look past the hurt, you look past the immediate pain, and you trust that God can use even our hardest moments for something bigger.
That he's working even when we can't see it.
Weaving a tapestry, even with the dark threads.
And then there's another one that's like almost poetic. It says, God's light shines brightest in my darkest moments.
Oh, wow.
Like when everything seems absolutely terrible, that's when we can really feel God's presence the most.
That makes me think of C.S. Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
He said, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It's his megaphone to rouse a deaf world.
Wow.
So it's when we're at our lowest, when we've lost all our illusions, that we're most open to God.
That's such a powerful way to put it. And the thing is, this reflection doesn't just give us these beautiful affirmations to ponder,
Yeah.
It also has these journal prompts.
Oh, yeah.
To actually apply these ideas.
They really make you think. They help us connect those big ideas of pain and hope to our own lives.
Yeah. Like there's one where it asks you to write about your own but God moment. Like have you ever had one of those when you were going through something really hard and then suddenly something shifted and you could just feel God breaking through?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time when...
And it's amazing how sharing those stories, those but God moments, it makes everything feel so much more real.
Yeah.
It's not just theory anymore, It's like, oh, this stuff actually happens.
It's lived experience,
Exactly.
And it gives you this hope, this like, okay, if it happened for them, it could happen for me too.
Oh, for sure. And there's this other journal prompt that's kind of similar.
Oh, yeah.
It asks you to list times when God came through for you, but in a way you totally didn't expect. It's like looking back and realizing, whoa, God's been there all along, even when I was clueless.
It's like finding hidden treasure, right in the middle of what you thought was just an ordinary day.
And then you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This wasn't ordinary at all.
It's like, oh, wow. God was working behind the scenes this whole time.
And it just makes your faith stronger
Totally.
Because you see how faithful he's been.
Even when we weren't paying attention.
It's like he's whispering these little messages of hope to us all the time.
Yeah, those unexpected blessings. Those are like little whispers.
They remind us that no matter what we're going through, God's still there, and he still cares.
He never stops caring.
And speaking of hope, this reflection ends with the most amazing prayer.
Oh yeah, the prayer.
There's this one line that just grabbed me, and it says, "Thank you that we can be honest about our pain, just like David was in Psalm 38. Thank you that we don't have to pretend everything's fine when we're hurting." Isn't that so freeing?
Oh, it is. It gives you permission to be real with God. You can bring all those raw emotions to him, all the doubts, all the anger, everything. You don't have to put on a brave face.
Nope. No pretending.
And you don't have to act like you have it all together.
We can come to him just as we are.
Broken, messy, the whole deal.
And he meets us right there.
It's like that whole fake it till you make it thing. That doesn't apply here.
Yeah, totally.
With God, it's more like be real with it till you heal with it. I like that.
And then the prayer goes on to say, but most of all, thank you that our pain is never the end of the story. It's that reminder again, you know?
Yeah.
Even in the darkest times, there's always hope.
There's always that light at the end of the tunnel.
And what's so cool is that it's not about just waiting around for that light to appear.
Right.
There's another part of the prayer that says, give us eyes to see the small sparks of hope you're placing in our lives. It's like we have to actively look for those glimmers of light.
Yeah, the little signs that God's there.
We have to pay attention.
And it's not always going to be obvious, you know?
Nope. It's like those tiny little embers.
Yeah.
And we have to carefully fan them into flame.
So it's not just about enduring the pain. It's about actively engaging with it.
Looking for those sparks of hope.
Yeah.
And nurturing them so they can grow
into something bigger, something stronger.
I love that image. It's like we're tending a garden, even in the middle of winter.
Well, I like that.
You know, when you look at it, it might seem like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
But under the surface,
Underneath.
life is stirring, waiting for the right time to burst forth.
Beautiful.
So, what does all this mean for someone listening right now? You know, someone who might be going through a tough time, their own valley of the shadow, as the psalm says.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. What would you say to them?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that they're not alone in this. Pain is something we all experience.
It's part of being human.
But so is hope.
And just like David did in that psalm, we can choose to turn to God when things are hard and find comfort and strength.
And ultimately, a way to heal and become whole again.
It's powerful stuff.
It is.
It's so easy to get caught up in our own pain, you know?
Yeah.
And feel like we're the only ones going through it.
But this reflection reminds us that we're part of something so much bigger.
Yeah.
We're part of this long line of faith.
This whole community of people who have wrestled with these same questions for centuries.
And we have a God who is big enough to handle it all.
Who's not afraid of our pain.
He leans into it. He meets us right where we are.
In our brokenness, in our mess.
And he offers us healing and hope.
And a love that never gives up.
No.
It's about acknowledging the pain, but also holding on to that hope, finding that balance.
And knowing we could do it because we're not alone.
Exactly.
Remember those times when you've seen God's presence in your life.
Those but God moments.
Let those memories give you strength. Let them fuel your hope for the future.
Because you are not alone on this journey.
Not at all.
As we close today, let's talk about protecting and nurturing those small sparks of hope. Think of hope like an ember in the darkness. It needs careful attention to grow into a flame. A practical way to nurture hope in dark seasons is to begin what I call spark spotting. Just as our eyes need time to adjust to see stars in the night sky, our hearts sometimes need to adjust to spot hope in dark times. Challenge yourself each day to find 3 tiny embers of hope. They might be as simple as the warmth of sunlight on your face, or a sudden peace, an answered prayer, or even a moment of strength when you felt weak. If you want, you can create a hope holder, which is a simple jar or box. And each time you notice these small signs of God's presence, write it down and place it in your hope holder. And on particularly dark days, you can pull out these reminders and let them kindle your hope. Remember, your current chapter isn't the end of your story. Like a master author, God specializes in weaving moments of pain into a masterpiece of promise and purpose. They're not just random sparks, they're signposts pointing to a greater story being written. This was brought to you by Hope Bible Reflections, a space where you can explore God's Word to find light in your darkest moments. Join us for a new podcast every week.